The mind is a very powerful thing. Obviously, I feel like everybody knows that. A big part of my message is about fortifying your mind and building the strongest mindset that you could possibly have. Mental resilience is all a part of my message. But one thing that you don't really hear too much about is imagination and the role that it plays in success, and the fact that it is a blueprint for success. It's a blueprint for a version of you that does exist. And I believe when you have an imagination, when you have these images pop up in your mind and you're thinking about, you might see someone driving a supercar and then you imagine yourself driving a supercar, or you see these big mansions and you imagine yourself living them. You see these people traveling all over the world, you see pictures of these places, and then you imagine yourself traveling and living in those places, or just traveling there. All of these things exist. Everything that you see around you within the world, that you could touch, that you could see, these things that, outside of nature itself and the things that the world has to offer, these things are human made. It was once a part of someone's imagination. The buildings that you see, the cars that you see, literally everything. All this shit wouldn't exist without people making it. They thought about it, and then they created it. Why can't you do that? When you think about something, why can't you act on that? Imagination being the blueprint, the seed of imagination, those images get planted in your mind. It is up to you where that goes. It can either just blow away, or you can grow it and grow it into reality. Everything starts up here. What you do with that thought, with that image in your mind moving forward, determines if you're going to get there or not. A lot of people, let's say you do see a supercar, you're like, oh man, I really wish I had one of those. The other guy's sitting there just staring at it and envisioning himself getting there. And literally envisioning an alternate life where he does have that. Imagination is literally the start. It's the start of your dreams. It's the start of a mission where you have an undying will to succeed in whatever it is that you're trying to do. But like I said, it requires action. It really does require you to start working on it. It requires you to maybe start manifesting it and thinking about it. You're constantly thinking about this thing. That first time that it pops up, now you can't stop thinking about it. And that's, imagination and manifestation tied together are pretty much damn near the same thing. Imagination is not just for children. I think it really is a very powerful thing that is kind of underlooked. I've literally had those kinds of moments though where I see shit and then I immediately can see me in that scenario. And when you weigh both sides, I think it's kind of important to realize that it could be both. If you're imagining yourself in a really good situation, you could also imagine yourself in a really bad situation. Your imagination, I believe, is pretty powerful. But what are we allowing to stick around? What are we allowing to resurface in our minds so that we can constantly think about it and finally start moving on it? Me personally, when it comes down to imagination and creativity and all that, I think about it a lot. My imagination has taken me this far. My imagination, my creativity, my discipline, showing up every day, and my passion behind it has taken me this far. And as I hit every milestone with all of this, and as I see the growth in real time, to see the the interactions, and as I'm closing in on, I'm about 1,000 away from 20,000 followers, I really see how powerful your imagination is. Your imagination is really powerful. When you see someone in a place that you want to be, or you just have visions of an alternate life that you could be living, a lot of this shit doesn't have anything to do with me. It's like I have this fucking guilt in my mind where I gotta become successful so I could save everybody around me. I don't know what it is. I want to save. A big part of me wants to save not only the family that I have alive and around me right now, but I want everybody around me to live a good life and a stress-free life. Whereas, I grew up in chaos and, people barely making mortgages, barely having enough money for anything. To me, it would be a beautiful thing for me to make it out so I could fix all of that forever. I think that's, a lot of people don't have that dream. I don't really understand why, because if I have kids and then I have grandkids and I have great everybody that's coming from me in my bloodline, I want them to be set up for the fucking rest of their lives, and it's because I did something about it. And it all starts with your imagination. Maybe I'm the first person in my bloodline to have these thoughts that are crazy enough, that are, I guess, big enough and crazy enough to where, telling them to a small-minded person would make me look insane. It's not going to make sense right now. I don't think it ever made sense, even in the beginning when I wasn't close to 20,000 followers. This shit's not supposed to make sense to a normal-minded person, but there's gonna come a time, because I'm not stopping, there's gonna come a time where you can't say anything anymore. Where I finally do make it, and then it all makes sense. I believe that we're definitely getting close to that. I have an itch that it's going to be within, the next few months. And that's crazy that I would even speak that, but I genuinely believe that we're on the edge of something great. But I think, a big factor to where I am right this moment is my imagination and how far it took me. That, one day I just had a thought to try one more time. And to, I saw myself doing this. Blowing up and becoming successful. I had that thought 2 years ago. It didn't happen overnight, but I constantly had that thought. And now I'm here. And, like I said, it just goes to show how powerful your mind is. And it also shows the power of consistency. Don't shut out your imagination. If you have a thought, when it comes into your mind, accept it for what it is. Don't just be like, that's not possible. There's no way that I could ever be, I don't know, like owning a Lamborghini or a big ass mansion or traveling all over. There's no way. I could never ever afford that. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how quickly your life can change in just a few months, let alone a year.